Okay, so for this round of lecture notes, we kind of focused mainly on bias just because of our bias paper coming off. We kind of talked about the importance of sleep and how that kind of improves our memory and overall makes us like a better, like, nicer human being to kind of like be around with. We also touched on like the internal module, which kind of helps you interpret the reality around you. It can also deceive you, but in some cases, which is really interesting. So that was super cool. We kind of learned about the parts of the brain, the frontal lobe, and all that, and the like kind of the focus and the function of each, which was super interesting because I feel like that like small organ can like control all of you. Um, so that was pretty cool. We did a worksheet that kind of talked about the different stages of bias. Um, in the book, it kind of talks about the different ways of learning and how we learn different. There's like three kind of main ways of learning, and that is, oh my gosh, it's called, we have classical conditioning, we have operant conditioning, and we have observational learning. And I think that was kind of super cool because each one of us learns in a different way and we each process information in a different way. So to be able to see the different methods of people, the way people use and how people figured that out back then, it was pretty interesting, and just kind of talk about how the brain processes our information. And going back to bias, that was super interesting because we don't realize we do it half the time. We have like biases like stereotyping, or the really obvious one like bandwagon, where it's like a sports team. If everyone else likes the sports team, then you're gonna like the sports team. And we have these immediate biases that come up in our life that we don't even realize just from like growing up with certain people. And I feel like if you grow up one way, you can have a certain bias, versus if you grow up another way, you can have a different type of bias. About anything, about people, ideas, clothing brands, like whatever. It just depends on how you grow up, and eventually you can either grow out of your bias because of how mature you can, or you can stay in your bias. It doesn't mean you're like less mature or whatever. It just means that you're just used to it. And I think everyone should just be aware of the bias they have when they go through life, and aim to kind of make their bias based off a more like educated decision, I guess. Just basically more educate yourself on the topic that you're talking about before you immediately jump to conclusions based on someone told you. So that was kind of the summary of these past lectures. Pretty interesting to me. So